Et yo, YouTube, salut Twitch. C'est parti, on reprend 18 ou 19. Voilà, tout de suite. Mince. Ok, ça va. Continue. On est à 21h je crois. 22h. 22h de jeu. Et bah c'est parti. 22h de jeu, on devrait en être à 8 je crois. 7 même peut-être. Donc là, on disait juste qu'on avait fini la discussion entre Batora et Kairi lui disait que, en fait, Beatorice, c'est certainement quelqu'un qui est déjà sur cette île, parce que c'était impossible qu'elle puisse arriver pendant la tempête, et qu'il n'y avait personne. Mais bon, moi je trouve que c'est un peu facile, il y aurait très bien pu avoir quelqu'un caché déjà, dont on ne sait pas l'existence, ou qui serait arrivé avant tous nos amis de la famille, mais peut-être que les fournitures, donc les meubles, tout le monde sait ce que c'est les meubles maintenant, auraient été mis au courant, donc voilà. Pour elle, et elle a l'air d'avoir convaincu Batora, eh bien, Beatorice, c'est une personne qui est déjà sur l'île, une des 18.
キリエも長え化粧直しじゃねえか。俺も次からは化粧をしてくることにするぜ。
ごめんなさい。女の化粧は長いのよ。どう？兄弟水入らずの話し合いは。
さぞや和気あいあいとしてるだろうよ。
Kairi-san poked the weak spot under my arm with her elbow.
一度頭を冷やそうってことで小休止さ。
Elle veut pas qu'ils sachent qu'ils en ont discuté tous les deux, je pense. Il est taquin, Batora.
こりゃ夜通しになりそうだぜ。
Ok, donc ils prennent une petite pause. Mais que cette discussion, négociation va quand même durer toute la nuit. Donc, petite pause pour toute la night, quoi. Là, il doit être quoi, 18, 19 peut-être, ils ont déjà mangé. 20h peut-être. His way of talking hadn't changed, but he couldn't completely hide his fatigue. I couldn't say I was sympathetic, but he looked pitiful compared to his normal, energetic self. Oh.
しかしひでえ雨だな。ゲストハウスに戻るのも嫌になるぜ。夏日姉さんが屋敷で泊まれるよう準備してくれたらしい。どうする？
Ah mais eux aussi ils habitent. Ok, tout le monde habite dans la guest house en fait.
3階になった時に考えてもいいんじゃない？部屋に戻る体力もなくなってたら、その時はお世話になりましょうよ。
We don't need to think about that until you're done, right? Ouais. If you run out of enough energy to head back to our room, then we can let them take care of us.
そうだな。その時に考えりゃいいか。バトラーはどうする？
Peut-être qu'il aura arrêté de pleuvoir en plus.
俺がいちゃお邪魔だろうからよ。気使って向こうに戻るぜ。そうか。
Et rentre à la guest house.
すぐ戻るのか。さあな。一人で戻ったって寂しいしよ。子供全員で揃って帰ることにするぜ。
Ok,
いいか？
donc on va retourner à la guest house.
いいか？
Ils ont dit qu'ils allaient rentrer à la guest house.
さあな。一人で戻ったって寂しいしよ。子供全員で揃って帰ることにするぜ。
Ok.
そうだな。そうするといい。それで、バトラー、お前、今夜はそうは簡単には寝ないだろう。
多分いとこたちとおしゃべりしてるだろうからな。夜更かしし
Normal.
そうな気配はあるぜ。それがどうかしたのかよ。
そうか。もし、大人たちの会議が終わってお前がまだ起きてたら、ちょいと家族でしたい話があるんだ。
なんだよ。柄にもねえな。
Apparently, Kairi-san was thinking the same thing. What are you talking about? She asked him in a small voice. It looked like Kairi-san didn't have a clue what Dad was talking about either.
キリエにも聞いてもらいたい話だ。後で話すから、今は聞くな。頼む。
I don't think there is anyone who ignores their family as much as this old bad sound. And this way the guy that was asking us to have a talk as a family. And this was the guy that was asking us to have a talk as a family. Both Kairi-san and I couldn't help but get wide-eyed.
そうビビった顔すんなよ。ビビりてえのは俺の方なんだ。何しろ。
At that point he swallowed his words for an instant. I don't remember Dad being the kind of person to artificially drum up suspense.
気持ち悪いぜ親父。
Tu me fais peur, hein,
今
papa.
家族は全員揃ってるじゃねえかよ。もったいぶらずに言えよ。
Quit beating around the bush and spit it out. Arrête de tourner autour du pot, papa.
俺は多分、今夜殺されるだろうな。
What? C'est quoi cette déclaration de fou là? Oh, ça fait froid dans le dos. What the fuck? Yo Lulu. J'ai la gorge sèche là. There was a huge crash of thunder. It must have been really close. Mais attends. Batora, tu réagis pas à ce que ton père vient de te dire là? Après, il s'en fout, il l'appelle le old bastard qui s'occupe jamais de sa famille. Non, il s'en fout pas, évidemment. C'est quand même son père. Dad's expression, brightly illuminated by the lightning, was burned into my eyes. Oh, c'est que là, je vois un flash sur la tête du père, genre. Dad's face, which always looks so sure of itself, and which always wore a taunting expression, was, for some reason that I couldn't explain, strangely frail, fragile, je pense. It was so worn out that he looked like a different person.
Hein?
Quoi? Oh, l'horloge.
何言ってんだよ、柄でもね。
Bah, Kairi.
同感よ。どうしたの？急に弱気ね。あなたらしくもない。
俺も化粧直しに行ってくる。
Oh, la phrase est folle. I will probably be murdered tonight. La phrase est dingue. Il est venu ici pour se faire buter, il le sait quoi.
ついてくんなよ。
Dad turned away weakly. After that, only Kairi-san and I were left still wide-eyed. Mais attends, mais du coup, tout ce qu'il a dit tout ce qu'il a dit avant, c'est trop important là. Ouais, je sais pas si je vais dormir là ou à la guest house. Et Kairi qui lui dit Non, mais de toute façon, on s'en fout. On pourra gérer ça quand toute cette histoire sera finie, qu'on aura fini de discuter. Oh oui, t'as raison. On pourra voir ça quand on aura fini de discuter. Hmm.
なんだってんだ。今夜殺される？まさかあの妙な手紙のせいで親父ビビっちまったのか？
You don't think that mysterious letter scared him? Celle de Beatrice, lue
連
par
続殺人者の映画の見過ぎだぜ。
Maria. Hasn't he been watching the news? Elle a l'air trop sereine, Kairi-san. Kairi-san didn't answer my light-hearted words and continued to stare at my dad's disappearing bike.
バトラ君はルドルフさんに今話せと言ったら話さず立ち去った。みんなに話すことがあると言い出しながら答えなかった。どうして？チェス盤をひっくり返す。
C'est comme ça que j'ai réussi à caler l'expression retourner l'échiquier en formation. Flip over the chessboard.
すると
話すと言っておきながら話せない矛盾。なんすかね。
There is the
親父側から見ると
contradiction that he said he
何か見えて
wanted
きま
to
すか？
talk, but he then couldn't. What? Can you see anything by looking from that perspective? Est-ce que tu peux comprendre du point de vue de papa? Qu'est-ce que tu peux comprendre?
ええ、見えるわよ。
Alors, je peux voir quelque chose.
話したいことがある。でも自分から言い出す勇気がない。だから追ってきて俺に話しかけて聞き出してくれが正解ね。ついてくるなも逆の意味よ。ついてきて俺を問い詰めてくれが正解。まったく甘えん坊さんなんだから。
そういう推理でいいんすか？そんなんめちゃくちゃな。
名探偵や名刑事が男女の気持ちや心を推理できる？できないでしょ？異性の気持ちを探るのは何次元のトリックを暴くよりはるかに高度な技術なのよ。
Figuring out the feelings of the opposite. Figure out, c'est imaginer, je crois. Déceler, peut-être. Les sentiments du sexe opposé is an even more advanced art than exposing the tricks in difficult crime cases. Ok, donc c'est super dur de capter les sentiments du sexe opposé.
私に言わせれば名作推理小説より恋愛小説の方がよっぽど難解なミステリーなんだから。
C'est dommage, le Umineko Nako Koroni, Naku, il est pas assez, il est trop opaque.
はあ。そういうもんすかね。
私はあの甘えん坊さんと一緒にいるわ。普段は虚勢を張ってるけど今夜はかなりの激論で疲れ切ってる。
I will be with that spoiled little child. He normally loves to act tough, durement. But tonight he is completely tired out from that heated discussion.
誰かに寄りかかりたい気持ちなんでしょうね。
Linon, c'est une musique d'électro, ça.
それに応えるのがパートナーの役目よ。
はあ。そりゃお熱いことで。じゃあうちのクソ親父の世話をよろしく頼みますよ。
ええ、任せておいて。
As Kairi-san departed, I called out to her.
Eh?
Il l'a rappelé, oui.
何？
Qu'est-ce qu'il y a?
いやありがとよって。
Arigato te.
おかげで陰鬱な気分がだいぶ晴れたぜ。
My gloomy mood has cleared up a lot.
ならよかった。コミュニケーションは大事ね。
After answering with a wink, Kairi-san followed after that. Natsui could be found in the dimly lit hallway. Now and then the thunder would crash, but this had no effect on Natsui's expression. Her expression was completely worn out. The discussion that had just taken place between the relatives in the dining hall was repeating itself inside Natsui's mind. Pourquoi j'ai l'impression que Natsui, elle va faire un meurtre? Beatrice had proclaimed that in addition to the gold, the headship and all of the assets of the Ushiromiya family would be given to the person who could solve the riddle. In other words, she planned to undermine the absolute guarantee that Cross, as the oldest brother, had to succeed the family head. Originally, the other siblings had absolutely no chance to succeed the head. To them, this proposal by Beatrice was extremely desirable. It was obvious that they would accept Beatrice's proposal. Even without playing clumsy detective game, she knew that this so-called 19th person Beatrice couldn't exist. This was a message employing a fictional character called Beatrice as a messenger. It may as well have been written in Kinzo's own handwriting. The proof was that Kinzo remained stubbornly neutral as to that letter's authenticity. He was completely ignoring these reckless claims that he shouldn't be able to ignore, that he had given up the head's ring. In short, Kinzo had wordlessly admitted that the letter held his own message. Most likely one of the servants had given Maria the letter. Kinzo had probably worked out an elaborate plan where the dress from the portrait would be prepared. And someone, probably Shannon, would be made to wear it and deliver the letter and the umbrella. Okay. By doing that, he couldn't make it seem like the witch from the portrait actually existed. He could make it seem like the witch from the portrait. No, if anything, that is why you could be certain that Kinzo was behind all of this. In that case, it was just as if Kinzo had butted in on the siblings' private discussion. And by announcing that he would give everything to the person who could solve the riddle, Kinzo had weakened Cross' overwhelming advantage. It was certain Kinzo had listened in on the siblings' discussion in the parlor earlier today. So she had known how Cross had staved off the attack by the other three, and to make the scales of the battle go back into balance, He had sent out this strange letter which benefited the other three. Ok, le complot quoi. Eva et Rudolph had dragged Rosa in, who had a weak position among the siblings because of her age. C'est la plus jeune, je crois. And they were trying once again to overwhelm Crow's 3-on-1 and push through their crazy reasoning. And so they had resumed what had once been a nearly decided conflict, and were repeatedly pressing Cross to pay them a large amount of money. Talk about the advance payment, which has been denied once already, was being brought up again under the terms that all of the siblings would guarantee Cross the succession to the family head. Of course, even without the story about the hidden gold, the Ushiromiya family store of wealth was vast. Just that store was worth more than enough by itself. Even if the hidden gold was buried forever along with Kinzo's death, there would be more than enough to satisfy. Therefore, even if they had no interest in the gold itself, there would be the lifelong fear that, on the off chance that someone found the gold, that person would be granted the position of family leads. And this kind of Achilles heel would definitely be taken advantage of by someone sooner or later. And this kind of Achilles heel will definitely be taken. Okay. The only person. Attends, c'est quoi le Achilles heel? C'est lequel? The only person with this fatal weakness was the successor to the head cross. The other siblings had found. No, they had been told by Kinzo about something that only Cross could lose, and they had thoroughly taken advantage of that. Natsui, as Cross only ally in his painful position, and as his wife had believed she was fighting alongside him. She kept trying to point out to him that the existence of the gold itself was a farce, and that there was no need for him to compromise. Cross had always told Natsuhi, he had told all of the siblings, he had always said that the hidden gold was nothing more than fiction created by Kinzo. Therefore, Natsui had believed that as his wife and on the foundation bed supported her husband, yet her words would not reach him, even though she was fighting so hard and lending all of her strength. He continued to stay himself and was trying to mm, Wondering why she could not be of use to him, Natsuhi felt sorrow, shame, and then anger. It had happened when everyone decided to take a short break to cool their heads. Natsuhi had flared up against Cross, and enraged. She had asked why she could not be useful to him. He had told her that he wanted to talk about something and had invited her into one of his private rooms, which she was normally not allowed to enter. That room had been sealed with a heavy-looking padlock, and just looking at it had given her an uncomfortable feeling.
他の3人の言うことも、ベアトリーチェを名乗る不審人物の言うことも、何も気にかけることはありません。黄金など所詮はお父様が生み出したまやかし。それを見つけられることなどあるわけがない。あなたの跡継ぎであることは盤石です。何を恐れることがあるのです。
First removed the padlock on the door. He then motioned for Natsui to enter.
入りたまえ。
何ですか？
見せたいものがある。君に初めて見せるものだ。
Natsuhi timidly opened the door with a dubious expression on her face. It was pitch black. She searched for a switch to turn on the lights, but since this was her first time in the room, she didn't know where it was. Cross entered behind her, pushing her in, and closed the door before making any attempt to turn on the lights. The two were swallowed up by the darkness. Only the sound of Cross locking the door rang out through the dark.
これは何事ですか？明かりは？
今つける。待ちたまえ。
True to his word, Cross pushed a switch on the wall and a flickering light turned on and lit up the room.
それは。
Natsui had her breath taken away. Oh merde, qu'est-ce que c'est? The room had no window, and at a glance, it appeared to be empty. In the middle of the room, a small round table had been set, and the lights brightened only that table, as if it were the leading part in a play. Laid out on top of the table was a red tablecloth of elaborate design covered with dust. Un tablier avec un design élaboré couvert de poussière. And on top of that, something about the size of a grown man's arm had been set down. A grown man's arm. Un bras d'homme adulte posé sur le tablier. That something took Natsui's breath away. Ok, c'est pas un bras d'adulte du tout. C'est un lingot d'or d'une incroyable pureté. Un bâtard. Sans ça, personne ne pourrait croire à la légende de l'or. Ok. C'était un lingot d'or solide. Et elle y croyait pas il y a 2 secondes. Hein. Même dans la lumière, faible lumière, it sparkled with a noble and dignified gold glint.
こいつはまともなインゴットじゃない。このインゴットを鋳造したのが国内なのか国外なのか、それすらも私にはわからないんだ。
C'est not a proper ingot. C'est-à-dire quoi? C'est pas un lingot genre... c'est pas un lingot légal. C'est pas un vrai lingot? Si. Il n'est pas légal. It takes a high level of skills to make the purest of solid gold ingots. Ce n'est pas un lingot en bonne et due forme. Je ne sais même pas s'il a été coulé dans le pays ou à l'étranger. Un lingot conforme, certifié quoi. Ok. And in order to verify that purity, it is standard to have the original foundry and the name of the bank that guaranteed it imprinted on the gold. I see. However, this ingot did not have that kind of seal. This mysterious gold bar had come from an unknown foundry.
ここを見たまえ。怯えることはない。こいつはただの。
Oh, le sourire. Viens là, c'est juste une barre d'or. Notsui, following crosswords, timidly approached the ingot.
そこだ。
Cross pointed at the surface of the ingot. Notsui concentrated on that section. Right there was the thin imprint. Oui, c'est l'aigle of the one-winged eagle crest. Natsui's breath was taken away 1 second.
そうだよ。
C'est vrai.
これこそが親父がベアトリーチェに与えられたといい、保証人のマルソーの会長に任意で一つを抜き取らせて持ち帰らせ。
Said he received from the witch that the president of Maruso, with on était témoin, and was allowed to select at random to take back with
再
him.
会のフィクサーたちを信用させたという伝説のインゴット
Ça a gagné la confiance des businessmen.
に手を尽くして私が見つけた。
I had to use all possible means to find it.
他の兄弟たちより早く。
そんな。
How could?
じゃあお父様の黄金伝説は。
実在する。
It actually exists.
白宮金蔵が授けられたベアトリーチェの黄金は。
そんな。本当に。
Natsui was shocked. Cross had always said that Kinzo's gold was just a fabrication, so she had believed it as his wife. However, the reality was different. He had held definite proof and had been more certain than any of the other siblings that the legend of the gold was true. Because of this, Cross was deeply frightened at the possibility. Elle m'a fait trop peur. Possibility that someone other than himself would find the gold that he had failed to find, costing him everything. But to Natsui, this truth was more than enough to split open her heart. Ah, ça y est, ah bah oui. Bah alors Natsui. Là, le cœur de Natsui il est split open, là. C'est une voûte. C'est devenu une voûte en voyant de l'or pur. Bizarre, tiens. She had thought that as Cross's wife, she should be his closest... Ah, mais ok, c'est dans l'autre sens. Confident. Which was why she had been selflessly supporting him. Bah, en fait, c'est dans l'autre sens. Mais elle arrête pas de se rendre compte qu'il la prend pour une conne quand même depuis le début. And yet he had hidden this fact from her until today. Why?
そこまでに私はあなたの信頼に足りないというのですか。
そういうつもりはない。話す必要がなかったわけだ。
あなたにとっては妻はその程度のものなのですか。
落ち着きたまえ。劇場にすぐ駆られるのは君の悪い癖だ。
あなたがそうさせてるんじゃないですか。
Ah, typical Asiate. Pardon.
私は後ろ宮家に嫁ぎ、今日まであなたの妻として仕えてきました。あなたのために生まれた家を捨て、身も心も捧げてお仕えしてきました。
Oh, I've been offering up my heart and my body to serve you.
その報いがこれなんですか。
C'est vrai qu'il est quand même pas sympa. Hein.
そんなこと。
Grosse grimaced, looking annoyed. Il s'en bat les couilles. His expression effectively communicated how much he disliked this part of Natsui. Ouais, elle prend un peu les choses pour elle, quoi. Il a peut-être fait pour la protéger aussi, hein, en vrai. Elle avait pas besoin de le savoir, peut-être. Ouais. Bon, bref, on s'en fout de ça. Il y a Rudolph qui va mourir, quoi.
私はもうあなたの力になれそうもありません。
Oh là là.
それでいい。
Oh, il saute sur l'occasion, lui, quand même.
兄弟のトラブルを私が自分の力で解決する。君の力は借りんよ。
違います。これは後宮家のトラブルです。確かに私にはこの身に家紋を刻むことが許されていません。でもあなたの妻です。
Bah, tu viens de dire que t'allais le laisser. C'est toi qui as dit ça.
私に
Ah,
力添えする資格もないのですか。
tout à fait ce qu'a dit Kairi-san. Il y a quelques dialogues. To figuring out the opposite... Opposed sex is more than difficult.
君を思えばこそあえて関わらせなかったのだ。
Ah oui.
これ以上は頭痛に触るだろう。君は今夜はこれで休みたまえ。
Ouais, il la connaît bien. Il l'a fait se reposer. Elle va revenir.
兄弟の話は兄弟でつける。
C'est dur à avaler pour elle, mais il va s'en remettre, je pense.
君は関係ない。それだけだ。
Putain, mais je croyais qu'il lui montrait un vrai bras d'humain, là. Pourquoi j'ai pensé qu'il lui montrait un bras d'humain? Parce qu'il a dit le mot arme, je pense. A dull headache tormented Natsui. No matter what medicine she took, no matter what scents she burned, it wouldn't heal. on the other hand, by standing here alone in a dimly lit corridor, her head filled with the sound of the rain, she felt like the pain had softened a little. C'est con parce que il n'avait pas besoin de lui dire en vrai. S'il s'attendait à cette réaction. I may have been Natsui, but I was not Ushiromiya Natsui. Ouais. Denigrated as being a sorry excuse for a wife. Verbally abused for not even being able to take care of that. Even so, I tried to properly perform the duties of a wife, but have been rejected even by my husband. I did my best raising my daughter as though it was the last job left to me. However, my anger and sadness, having no place to go, caused me to subconsciously strain that relationship too. Because I have been excessively strict in Jessica's education, I am powerfully disliked by her. Attends, on change de narrateur là. On va passer sur Natsui. Jessica despises me for not being interested in anything but grades. There is no longer anything I can do for the Ushiromiya family. No, that's not good. Even so, I must help my husband dislodge the schemes of the other greedy siblings. The head won't be around much longer. Eventually, Cross will succeed the head, and the next successor will be Jessica. Strictly speaking, the man who enters the family by marrying Jessica will become the next head, but it all comes to the same thing. I have to make Jessica an excellent successor who everyone will accept as worthy to take over the Oshiromiya family. In the years to come, that greedy Oshiromiya Eva will surely be continually plotting to find some fault with the main family. So that if all goes as she plans, Jessica will be dragged down from the succession with George in her place. It is regrettable, but George is a man, and even more, has matured as a person. If you compare him to Jessica, who is right in the middle of her rebellious period, and whose grades are below average, you can see at a glance who is more fit to succeed the head. So, in order to secure Jessica's position, I need to turn her into an excellent person. Okay. After doing that, I want to find her an excellent husband worthy of the excellent person she will have become. C'est bien, elle retrouve de la force là. A wonderful man who will truly accept Jessica and stay with her through all of life's joys and sorrows. Was that Natsui trying to entrust her daughter with fulfilling some desire of her own? Natsui thought back to the days when she would had no choice but to marry into the Oshiromiya family because of that unavoidable fate. Fate. She had tried to block that from her memory. Ah, on sait plus pourquoi. Elle s'est retrouvée là. Natsui, qui peut-être est une goth, hein, vu qu'elle est mal présentée depuis le début. On connaît la chanson là. She had consciously Forgotten. Consciencieusement, non, de façon consciente. Forgotten that and... Ah ouais, elle a oublié ça, mais de façon volontaire, j'imagine. And had actively attended to the life she had been given as Ushiro Miya Natsui. And this was the new life she had built. But it felt like just now all of that had been casually rejected. Juste pour avoir caché l'or.
何を考えて生きていけばいいのかわからない。
Natsui helplessly rested her head against the glass of the window. The glass, cooled by the raindrops beating against it, was somehow refreshing, and even though it had no emotions, right then it seemed to be the only thing that could understand Natsui. Très bien. Even if someone showed up there and saw her like this, Natsui... Mince. Natsui... Attends, even if someone showed up there and saw her like this, Natsui had no intention of caring in the least. Ouais, pas faire semblant, quoi. But she found herself caring, because it was her beloved daughter. Teco, Teco. Ah, c'est toi,
なん
maman.
だよこんなところに。幽霊かと思ったぜ。
Just like always, the words were rough and not at all like a girl's. Instinctively, words of rebuke rose to Natsuhi's throat. However, they did so only weakly. And so she was able to prevent them from escaping her lips.
ジェシカ、ごめんね。母さんは頭痛がひどいの。そっとしといてくれる。
Mince. Jessica, I'm sorry, your mother has an awful headache. Please leave me be.
そう。
So, Jessica was more than slightly disconcerted by this first ever sight of feebleness from her mother. Putain, la faiblesse, quoi. Until just now, she had been filled with contempt for all of the parents, including the... But now, not the slightest bit of that feeling remained. Faut pas faire confiance aux autres. Hein. All of it had been wiped out by her mother's completely exhausted face. Comme moi. In its place, the words that George had told her floated back up in her mind. The parents are doing their best in their own way. They are supporting their family so they can afford to keep everything pleasant and have a heavy responsibility to fight. Couldn't her mother have been standing around in this dimly lit hallway because no one had tried to understand that? Jessica didn't like her mother, but she had no instinct to give her mother words of kindness just because she looked a little frail. Therefore, in order to give those words regardless, she had no clench both her she had no clench both her fists and wrench the words out from the depths of her heart. で、
ずいぶん立て込んだ話をしてるようじゃん。お前には関係あります。よそへ行っていなさい。頭痛ひどい？私薬もらってこようか。構わないで結構です。お願いだから一人きりにして。
Natsui was not being cold to her. She just wanted to get her daughter far away from her so that she could avoid subjecting her to her short temper. But there was no chance that her intentions would reach Jessica. Jessica hung her head, looking sad. Looking at that expression, Natsui realized that Jessica was trying to muster up the strength to be kind of to her mother. She gave her head a small shake to drive away her own unkind feelings. Ça m'endort l'histoire de Natsui là.
いとこたちと一緒にいるから。じゃあ。お待ちなさい。
She called Jessica, about to make her desolate exit to a stop.
気遣いを。ありがお前を残して寝込むわけにはいきません。
If it isn't good of me to go to sleep and leave you alone.
よせよ。演技でもないぜ。心配を
Je suis en train de m'endormir.
もう大丈夫です。私は行きます。
Staying here any longer with such a feeble expression would actually make her daughter feel more uncomfortable. Thinking this, Natsui left Jessica with words of gratitude and made to depart. This time it was Jessica who called out to her mother's back. Natsui stopped, turned around and asked her what she wanted. Jessica herself didn't know why she had stopped her mother, and for a while she muttered to herself with a slightly forced smile as she hesitated over what to say. She was poking around in her pocket when her hand touched something, and she took it out.
確かそのドアノブにぶら下げてるといいんだっけ。私が持ってても仕方ないし、母さんにあげるよ。
It was the scorpion charm that Maria had given her by the beach that day. Although she had heard of its various effects from Maria, Jessica, mine was blank. Le faux, etc. Thinking that her mother probably wouldn't accept the charm anyway, Jessica had immediately drawn back the hand offering to her.
これは何かの景品？まあそのこんな チェみたいなお守りじゃご利益は。
But her mother took the scorpion charm from her grip.
ありがとう。大切にします。ジェシカには今度私が子供の頃大切にしていたお守りを代わりにあげましょう。別にそんなつもりで渡すんじゃないぜ。でもまあどうしてもって言うなら。では私はもう休みます。頭痛がひどいのでジェシカもあまり夜更かしをしすぎないように。
Sure. Natsui put the charm in her pocket and turned away. She then disappeared into the dark hall. Attends, mais il est important ce charme-là. Je suis sûr. Attends, je relis. Je m'endormais pendant la lecture là. This time, it was Jessica who called out her mother. Eh maman, Natsui, pars pas tout de suite. But Jessica didn't know why she had stopped her mother, and for a while she muttered to herself with a slightly forced smile, and she hesitated over what to say. She was poking around in her pocket, and when her hand touched something, and she took it out. Hey mam, on m'a donné un charme aujourd'hui. What was it? Qu'est-ce que c'était? Un charme contre la magie. Pretty sure you were supposed to hang it from your doorknob, was it? Haha. I forget, there is no reason for me to have it, so I'm giving to you. Scorpion de Maria sur la plage. Matsui put the charm in her pocket and turned away. She then disappeared into the dark hall.
やっぱり明日も丸一日こんな天気みたいだね。
Bon allez, moi j'y vais. Je sauvegarde encore une fois. Hop. Ah, mais l'heure change pas, c'est dingue. Je suis à 22 heures de jeu. Je suis éteint. Bon bah merci les gars d'avoir suivi pendant 1 heure encore. Yo Maherby, merci d'être passé, bim bim bim. Je suis éteint. Quand on a parlé tout à l'heure, je me réveillais pour te dire. Et là, bah c'est l'heure d'aller faire dodo, je pense. Parce que je commence à m'endormir sur la lecture. Donc je vous souhaite une très bonne fin de journée. Et demain, j'essaierai de commencer à lire plus tôt si l'occasion se présente. Allez, des gros bisous, bye bye, bim bim bim. Peut-être demain pour le meurtre de quelqu'un, on verra. Bye.